Hello and welcome to the exclusive on France 24. We are with Baghdad with Ryan Dillon, the spokesperson of the International Coalition Against the Islamic State group. Welcome, Mr. Dillon. My first question is this one. Where do we stand in Tal Afar? Can we say game is over?
Well, I would not get in front of the government of Iraq and the Prime Minister to claim victory. Forces have shown very decisive and very prominent, not victory, but offensive operations where all elements of the Iraqi security forces work together, a simultaneous attack on multiple fronts, and in 9 days, nearly 1,000 square kilometers of ground had been taken, once held by ISIS. It was very decisive. Victory has not yet been claimed. We'll wait for the government of Iraq and the Prime Minister to make that statement.
Did the popular mobilization forces play an important role alongside the coalition forces?
Yes, we can say that. As a matter of fact, the popular mobilization forces moved out into the Tal Afar area and conducted the isolation of Tal Afar while the offensive operations in Mosul were underway. So they were able to move out into that area and isolate the objective. And in the offensive, they were integrated within the traditional elements of the Iraqi security forces and played a part in this offensive as well that has been clearly successful.
Regarding the fights, the current fights in Ayadir, would you describe them as collateral fights, marginal fights that will be settled very soon?
That is something that we'll have to see. Something like battle and like war is unpredictable. And while we did not anticipate such a quick and decisive, takeover of the Tal Afar city, we certainly went into this planning for the worst. The same thing is happening in the town north of Tal Afar, where there are ISIS holdouts. But I think it's very safe to say that the Iraqi security forces have proven that they can defeat ISIS throughout Iraq, and they will do so again here very soon.
So the next battle will take place in Hawija, Qaid. Where will it take place?
The next battle and the next location where ISIS will be defeated will be a decision by the Prime Minister and the government of Iraq. But the one thing that is clear is that the decision on where to go is getting easier every single day. Right now, there really are just less than a handful of choices where ISIS still remains in control of areas, and that is in Hawija and in the western Anbar province. But as we've seen in the trend of the string of defeats over the course of the last 3 years in Fallujah, Ramadi, Tikrit, and in Mosul and Tal Afar, I think we know the way that these battles in the remaining pockets will go as well.
Next question. Did you integrate the Sunni tribes in this battle against the Islamic State group?
So the tribal mobilization forces have also played a part, and we are going to see in the future what their role could potentially be in western Anbar. But specifically in Mosul, tribal mobilization forces were integrated within the police force and were considered by the Nineveh police chief as sons of the city. These are people who are from the areas. They know the residents and the citizens, and they know who do not belong, who are those foreigners and who are potentially Daesh fighters. So they have been also an integral part of holding security in places that have been liberated already.
Let's go to Manbij, if you agree. There were some shootouts with armed people supported by Turkey around Manbij. Do you see a positive sign there?
Well, we do have coalition forces that are working with the Manbij Military Council, and coalition conducts overt patrols in that area to de-escalate tensions. So we will continue to do that. We have been doing it for many, many months now, and we'll continue to do that to make sure that all elements in the region and in this area are focused on the number one threat and the number one enemy, which is ISIS.
Regarding the city of Qaim, from a military point of view, do you think it was a good idea to enable the Hezbollah and the Lebanese army to transfer fighters of the Islamic State group to the region of Abu Kamal in Syria, close to Qaim in Iraq?
I can't really talk about what is going on with the Hezbollah forces, but what I can say is that the coalition, while physically not in Al-Qaim, we continue to identify ISIS resources, so their defensive fighting positions, their factories for making car bombs, their leaders, their fighters, and we continue to strike in Al-Qaim and in Abu Kamal and up the middle Euphrates Valley into places like Mayadin and Deir ez-Zor. So while we do not have forces physically there, we will not allow ISIS to have sanctuary anywhere in Iraq or Syria.
What would you say about the military coordination with Russia?
So I would describe it as the deconfliction that the coalition does with our Russian counterparts has been professional. It has worked. It has worked to allow both the coalition and the Russia and the pro-regime forces to focus on their objectives and our objectives. And right now in Syria, that is for the coalition to defeat ISIS in their self-proclaimed capital, in their de facto capital in Raqqa. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the deconfliction and the things and the measures that we've put into place are working.
Do you expect a second Mosul in Raqqa? With whom will it be and how? Will you need 2 months, as the Kurdish forces are saying, to finalize it?
So again, Raqqa is a very difficult fight, and it's very similar to Mosul, and that is something that we expected. This is their de facto capital. They've had more than 3 years to prepare their defenses. ISIS is currently fighting in the same brutal ways that we have seen in other places where they are using civilians or using protected sites like children's hospitals, the National Hospital, the ancient mosque. So it will be a difficult fight. We're not going to set a timeline on it, but as we've seen in any other location where we have faced up against ISIS, they have been defeated, and they will be defeated in Raqqa as well.
We are on an Arab-speaking French channel. We hear many Arabs say, "Oh, we see a war, but we see no prisoners." Did you make prisoners from the Islamic State group?
We, as a coalition, do not. There have been ISIS fighters that have surrendered or have been captured, and those are handed off to the authorities, the partners on the ground. So in Syria, they would be the Syrian Democratic Forces, and in Iraq, they would be the Iraqi security forces. What happens to those fighters from ISIS is handled by those governments, and if they are foreign fighters, they are then discussed and with the nationalities and the governments of the foreign fighters.
Did you modify your airstrikes to avoid innocent victims?
We have. So we always take into account civilians on the battlefield, and we have become attuned, and we understand the tactics that ISIS have used in the 3 years that we've been facing up against them.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching France 24. Stay tuned.